Hi everyone, I'm Lynsey Henry and I'm back for another live event with Stigma-Free Society. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm getting a little tired of wearing these masks. Whoa. I was at the mall today and they were encouraging people to do that in a lot of the stores now, including like Winners and Marshalls. But anyhow, here we all are. Just to remind you to take a look at the video disclaimer in the video description box, and we're just looking out for you and your safety. And so just take a moment to review that. And once again, I'm Lynsey Henry. I'm a registered clinical counselor and I work as a school counselor in Surrey schools. Formerly, I was also a teacher and I love what I do. I love my job. All right, so we're doing these live events for you, and our Stigma-Free Toolkit's available at stigmafreetoolkit.com, and there's lots of really great resources there, especially right now in heading back to school. So that's what I'm talking about today, is going back to school during COVID-19. And first of all, I'm just going to go over some of the regulations that have come out in BC and different school districts, quickly review that with you, and then go into some different tips for educators, for parents, and for children going back to school during this tough time. All right, so why is this important? Well, we're going back September 10th for students, and there's lots of anxiety around this in the media. I've been watching the news daily in the morning, and just lots of anxiety and around going back to school, and lots of questions. So let's talk them through and ask me your questions at any time, and I'll try and answer them to the best of my ability. So let's review some of the guidelines. Well, teachers are returning to school September 8th and 9th, and the purpose of that is so that we can meet with our health and safety committee and determine different guidelines that will work and how they will work in our school, because different schools are different sizes, especially in Surrey. My school is one of the largest in Surrey School District, and some are quite small, so it's going to look differently in each school and in each school district. So different things teachers will be discussing is how to adjust to the new routines, finalizing plans for learning groups, and reviewing health and safety protocols. They also are going to confirm lesson plans that align with the new normal in school and how that's going to work. So students, like I said, return on September 10th and 11th for orientation, and during that time they'll get assigned to their class or classes, find out who their learning group is, practice the routines, and familiarize themselves with how to safely move from their class to outdoor and common areas in the school. So you might be wondering about these learning groups and what that means. I was at first myself in hearing about it. So the learning groups basically are just a group of staff and students that stay together throughout the school semester or the year. And it could be a single class of 20 or 30 students, or it might also be multiple classes that join together for activities. So something like PE or music. Or for secondary students, they would be enrolled in some of the same classes. And overall, the goal is to reduce the number of interactions with students and staff. So these learning groups at the elementary level, the maximum number is 60 students in each group. For middle school is 60 as well. And for high school, it's 120. So at the beginning of the year, each student and staff member will get 2 masks, woohoo! And they to start the year, and they get to choose whether they want to wear them or not. For elementary students, they are not required to wear the masks. For middle and high school students, they will be required to wear the masks in high traffic areas, so like hallways, on the bus, or if they're not able to maintain social distance. So they can choose whether they want to wear a mask in the classroom, what makes them feel more comfortable, and same with teachers. So how will they physical distance, you might wonder? Well, I heard there's going to be certain barriers, maybe some kind of plexiglass in the office, so that's a high traffic area, and just different areas of the school, trying to encourage groups to work around and spread out throughout the school, and staggering breaks like recess and lunch, and different transitions so there's not too many people in one area at a given time. Individual activities more so than group activities, and encouraging children to keep their hands to themselves. So some different statistics I came across on the government website with all these regulations. I will also post it in the comment section if you wanted to have a look or review it. So some different stats. Serological tests have confirmed in BC that less than 1% of children um, that were tested have been positive for COVID-19. So less than 1%. So that's huge and very low. So it's good to reiterate that to your child if they're having anxiety and concerns about this. Less than 1% of children tested have been COVID-19 positive. Studies show that most COVID-19 cases in children originate from symptomatic adult family members, not from their peers or their friends. Even in family bubbles, adults appear to be the primary spreaders of the virus. So children that do test positive for COVID-19 usually have milder symptoms like a low-grade fever, dry cough, and gastrointestinal issues. So some interesting statistics there from the website. All right, so let's move into some different resources for educators and for parents and for children. So, of course, we have our toolkit that has the most amazing bank of resources in video resources, activity ideas, all kinds of stuff. So that's at the toolkit website, stigmafreetoolkit.com. And we also have blog posts that are written each week that you can check out and give some really good tips. And I came across an article, there's actually quite a few on Anxiety Canada's website that are very helpful, especially if your child is someone that's experiencing anxiety. I would tell you to check out Anxiety Canada as your first resource. So they had an article of tips for educators, and they listed these 7 different tips. One is to validate, listen, and be supportive to students. So that's something I talk about a lot as a counselor, is to make sure we're validating our children's feelings in our class, our students' feelings. Number 2, just be honest and encouraging rather than reassuring, and encourage a gradual approach, not avoidance of the classroom and the school. Praise and reward students for being courageous. So that can be verbal praise. For younger classes, maybe that's things like stickers or prizes and that sort of thing at the end of the day. Model good coping behavior for students. So what's a healthy coping strategy that you can incorporate into your daily routine as an educator? Maybe that's the mind up, chime breathing and practicing deep breathing in your class. Maybe that's using the Calm app after lunch with your older students and doing a bit of a meditation. Maybe that's incorporating a mental health check-in in the morning with your students. I saw that tip from Youth Mental Health Canada this morning in a great graphic I reposted. So just find a way to incorporate those healthy coping strategies into your classroom. It's especially important right now. And take care of yourself. Know your limits as a teacher. Know if you need to take a personal day and that sort of thing. And take care of yourself and talk to your teacher colleagues. Provide clear information to families as soon as possible, because families and their children are on edge. So if you can provide any sort of reassurance or information, communication via email when things are starting to settle down, that's really helpful as well. Something else I came across for educators to share with their students. For younger students, there are these social stories, and that can be good for even students with disabilities. And they had ones around going back to school during COVID-19, how to use your own materials, when to be wearing masks, all kinds of different stories that you can just print off and read with your child at home, or as an educator, send home with your students, or provide an online link for parents to check it out. So I'll post those resources in the comments section below as well. Resources and tips for parents. Once again, the toolkit resources, check it out. And our blog posts that come each week and new content. Stigma-Free Society also posted a really helpful article the other week from Kids Help Phone. And they went through 3 different tips on how to take care of our youth during this tough time and going back to school. So their tips were: start an open conversation and make a plan with your child and come up with what's the routine going to be like back to school so they can know what to expect. And 3, focus on their mental health and well-being. So that's the self-care piece, and it's a good family routine to incorporate regardless. So here's some different ideas. First, maybe try some new hobbies or continue on with your favorite old hobbies. Participate in virtual cultural activities. Spend time in nature, so establish maybe a routine of going for a walk after dinner every night or some sort of activity, biking. Limit screen time, especially before bed, because that really affects our ability to be able to get a healthy night's sleep. Building in time to connect with their classmates, friends, teammates, and partners. Practicing self-care and being kind to ourselves, being compassionate. Taking things one day at a time. So that first week's going to be tough for all of us, but just taking it one day at a time and one step at a time. And encouraging them to talk to a safe adult if they need support. One of my favorite resources I came across that I'm definitely going to share with you in the comments section is the Big Life Journal Back to School Care Package. Now, this was a really cool package that you can just print off and do with your child at home in these coming weeks. And it had some really good conversation starters and pages to fill in around what it feels like going back to school in different areas and how we can cope. So in particular, it focuses on the things we can and can't control right now, because we really want to focus on those things we can control and let go of the things that we can't control. So at the end of this talk, that's going to be an activity that I'm going to do with you that you can also try at home. Different calming strategies. So they listed calming strategies for adults and for children in the booklet. One of them is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding. So that's focusing on all our different senses of what we can see, hear, touch, taste, and feel. And that's really good in moments of panic, like panic attacks as well. Embracing the arts, some different art activity ideas in there, physical activity ideas, how to connect more with nature and nurture and take care of ourselves. Some self-soothing strategies that were really good, for example, changing the environment that we're in. And teachers can be doing this in their classrooms too. So maybe having more of a dim lighting or a dim atmosphere in the classroom can produce a sense of calm, and maybe having a few lamps on in the class and the window open instead for fresh air, and having like a calm down corner for teachers, or getting your child to have a calm down space at home is really awesome as well for self-soothing. Connecting with animals at home, pets can be a good source of comfort during this time. And time management suggestions, different motivational strategies, because that might be difficult right now for our high school students, especially because some are going back one day a week in class sessions and the rest is online. So just going through those motivational strategies with your child can be really helpful. Tips for connecting with others, so staying connected with their peers that might not be in their learning group or their learning cohort. So that would be helpful. And a back to school interview. I actually did it on my counselor Instagram. It was a cute little template filling in things that we're looking forward to this year, things that might be changing a bit this year, and just some of our favorites. So it was pretty fun. And I liked that portion. Routine scheduler, a feelings monitor. So I would encourage parents just to do that basic check-in with their kids in the morning. How are you feeling about going to school today? How are things going? And just getting them to give you a sort of rating or a feeling word to describe what's been going on for them. And I like this suggestion here of a pen pal. And they had some different ideas to connect with a pen pal on the other side of the world, which is pretty cool because a lot of the stuff we're doing on right now are all online. So why not find a pen pal from somewhere else, maybe in the States, and get your child to write to them about kind of what's been going on. And what a cool way to connect with somebody else their age and kind of compare notes of what's been going on and how they've been coping. All right, so anxiety tips from a counselor's perspective. I came across an article from CTV News from a counselor in Vancouver, and she had some pretty good tips. I also am going to share some of my tips with you as a registered counselor. So the CTV article. She suggested that you have an open dialogue with your child to discuss their feelings around going back to school. So focus on how they are feeling and make sure not to dump any of your anxiety or concerns, and just make sure you're listening to what they are saying. Look for signs of anxiety. So if they're increasing their screen time, like iPad, computer time, video game time, help them find other healthy coping strategies like getting outside or doing a physical activity like biking. If you notice any changes in sleep, appetite, or mood in your child, those are big warning signs that anxiety could be occurring for them or bigger feelings could be happening for them. So make sure to monitor those 3 things. Manage your own anxiety before talking to your kids, and bring the conversation back to something positive at the end. So what is something that you're grateful for right now? What's something our family is grateful for? What are we lucky to have? And spend some quality time with your child, giving them your undivided attention and support. So those were some good tips from a Vancouver counselor. And now for my tips. Teach them mindfulness, and Stigma-Free Society put this out in a graphic the other day as well. And mindfulness basically is just to focus on the present moment and teach them to defeat their worries with evidence. And this is my favorite strategy in sessions with children and teens, is to put their thoughts on trial, like they're a judge, a jury, and they're trying to come up with a verdict or evidence for each thought. So for example, would we really be allowed to go back to school if it was truly unsafe? Would Bonnie Henry let us do that? And the answer is no. So that's something that could be on the side of evidence for going back to school. And make a list and cross off those pieces of evidence, or get your child to journal down their worries and share them with you if they're comfortable sharing them with you, and teach them how they can control, or how you can help them control some of those worries. Teach them 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 grounding, as I mentioned above, about our senses. Allow them to bring fidgets to school. So something less distracting would be a bracelet, a hair tie, a fidget ring, and use daily affirmations with them every morning before they go to school. And there's a really cool app called Daily Affirmations where you can find those. And self-soothing strategies. Maybe have a warm shower in the morning before school. Find comfortable clothing to wear. Use essential oils like lavender. Listen to music in the car, and just enjoy all of those senses and engage your senses. Reassure and validate your child before they go to school. Words like, everything's going to be okay, and I'm here for you. If you need help and support, I'm here for you, and you can say, and we can talk together about whatever your concerns are, and we'll come up with a plan together. So that reassurance is really helpful. All right, so I'm going to pause here for some questions, and I don't see them showing up on my screen. I've been having this problem for the last couple of weeks, so I'm just going to quickly check on my phone to see if there are any questions in the comments box here, and then we can move on and to the activity I had planned about control. So let's have a look here. All right, so I see a question here. How can teachers of students change their expectations of students because they might not be the same before the pandemic? Sorry, it's hard for me to listen to this and also answer the question. Oh dear. So I might have to come back to your questions, because when I'm looking at them on my screen, on my phone, and I'm getting the audio feedback, it's really difficult for me to concentrate on the questions. So different problematic concerns, I think the question was around. Just making sure to really reassure your child and come up with that plan and steady routine for them, I think would be really helpful. I'm going to try one more time to check them, and then if not, I might have to come back to them later. Sorry about that. See if we can see any questions, comments. Here we go. How can educators integrate mental health education into the classroom? Well, we're actually coming up with lesson plans for you educators, so look out for that coming soon. I'm helping myself work on them along with Maddie, and she's our great coordinator. We're going to come up with some great lesson plans incorporating the videos from the Stigma-Free Toolkit, and you can use them in your classroom, and I'm excited to bring them to my school and try them out with our students. Just topics around what is mental health, and what are coping strategies, what can we learn from other people's stories, because we do have a lot of people that came forward to share their personal stories with us on the Stigma-Free Toolkit website, and so what can we learn from them? how can we cope with our feelings in a healthy way? So that's what I would suggest as well. And I'll come back to your other questions later. So thank you for being patient with our technical difficulties today. All right, so something I would suggest as a counselor or as a parent to do as an activity with your child is to create a control bubble. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. I traced a circle here, and at the top I wrote, I cannot control, so I need to let these things go. And in the circle I wrote, I can control, so I will focus on these things. I've come across this a lot during the pandemic, and different visuals from different people like Youth Mental Health Canada, other school counselors on Instagram. A lot of things have been focusing on control because control is a big part of anxiety. So let's think through some ideas together. And if you want to put some ideas in the comment box for me to view later, that would be cool too. All right. So things that we can't control right now. We can't control when this pandemic is going to end, unfortunately. So I'm going to write that as one of my ideas. When the pandemic will end. Unfortunately, we cannot control that, so we need to let it go. We also can't control if other people social distance or if they are washing their hands or following the guidelines. It's not up to us, that's for them to decide. So let's let it go. So you can write these ideas all around the outside of your control bubble. All right. Other things that we can't control. We can't control how many people wear masks and how many don't. So let's let that go. All right. Let's start to think of some of the things that we can control. I can control my own physical distancing. When we're in different spaces, that goes inside the bubble. I can control my own feelings and how to cope with them. As a child, you would not be able to control if you're going back to school or not. Unfortunately, that would be up to your parents. So you could put that on the outside of the bubble as well. If I have to return to school or not. But I can control who I connect with during this tough time. Who supports me. And I'm going to look at the graphic that I saved as well, so I can give you some more awesome ideas. So some of the other ideas of what we can and can't control. We can control whether we turn off the news or whether we limit our social media. Whether to turn off the news. We can control our inner peace. We can control ways that we stay healthy. So what we eat and what we do to keep our body healthy. So how we stay healthy. I just like this as a good visual reminder too, to put up on maybe on the fridge or on a bulletin board in your house to go through in the morning. Like, look at all these things we can control, and let's focus and hold on to those things. Whereas let's let go of all these other small things that we cannot control. So we cannot control the future, just in general. We can't control others' motives, what they choose to do. So let's let it go. Others' beliefs. I'm going to keep that as my last one. Maybe at the top here. Others' beliefs we cannot control. So there we go. There's your visual reminder that you can do at home before going back to school to help reassure your child, and even just go through these reminders in the morning that there's a lot of things we can control, a lot of things for us to be grateful right now. So thank you so much for tuning in today, and I'll get back to you with those comments and questions. Take care.